I've lost the will, babe. Gutted.
Need to hang in there. The right one will come on.
So I didn't realise what an intense and bumpy journey the last few weeks turned out to be, no. Should I give up hope of things actually turning out? And to be absolutely honest, I'm not quite sure at this point. It's turning out to be very much a long-term quest. And so you may have seen earlier videos from quite a while ago, actually. Perhaps I'll link one or two of those up there. But suffice to say, I'm not doing particularly well around it. So this is the story of 3 houses. One I didn't film, one I viewed on my own because James works away, and another one which was a dream, yes. Apart from the fact it was really expensive, but we were willing to sacrifice a few things for that one. So I thought I would take you with me to keep me company, and in case you're a little bit curious as well, because it's always interesting to look around houses, isn't it? I think anyway. But I want to be transparent right from the start. This is not clickbait. I don't want to lead you up the garden path, as it were, sorry about the pun, into thinking that we found somewhere, because we didn't. So there are options, obviously, whether to buy, whether to rent, whether to stay put. And I'll explain all that as we go along, all the ins and outs. And probably for many of you, you're not aware of the ins and outs of the current housing market, whether you're buying a house or renting. And in fact, renting or trying to rent, trying to find somewhere is more stressful than buying a house right now. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. The current process for renting, and I can only speak for the UK, for England, because that's where I'm based, but at the same time I have heard that it's very similar in other places as well, so you may be able to relate. And it's actually harder than getting a job. It's so bumpy, so stressful, an absolute emotional roller coaster. And before you can even apply for said house, you have to try to get a viewing. And in 9 times out of 10, by the time you ring up to get a viewing, the viewings are all booked up, so they've closed that option. These were a couple of houses where I did manage to get appointments to actually look around the place. You then apply. Like when applying for work, there are going to be other applicants as well, especially if it's a really nice place. And then you need to wait to see if you get picked, to see if you get chosen out of the selection. And rather than being emotionally all over the place, what I could really do with is to feel more level and constant and consistent, which feels impossible in this quest to find a home. So let me show you around the first place. So I think I need to explain my mindset, my headspace when I viewed this house, because I was still stuck in a deep disappointment around the first house, actually, which I didn't film. The reason I didn't film it is because I really thought it was ours. I was kind of hoping to do a house tour, you know, when we got the key. I mean, that sounds bonkers to me now, and I definitely know I shouldn't have been presumptuous at all. And it's never a good idea, is it, to sort of do that to yourself? And I kind of mentally moved in a little bit as well, which was, again, not a good idea. It makes that emotional roller coaster that much more extreme, doesn't it? Anyway, after all that terrible idea, my bad completely, we really thought we were getting a personal recommendation, actually. But in the end, we didn't, which is completely fair enough. And there were lots of other applicants. And at the end of the day, they chose someone else. I got up, brushed myself down. Onwards we go, as they say. So Let's just talk about this little bungalow then. So first of all, I don't really like bungalows. I went to see this one because James thought it might be quite nice, depending on its kind of position. And I had to go on my own as well because James was away. He works away. Some of you may know that. But I just found the space a little bit depressing, to be honest. And I was still in the headspace of comparing it to the house that I didn't film, that we'd missed out on. And I couldn't force myself to feel positive about it, even though there were things. I mean, it's perfectly pleasant is how I'm looking at it now.
The floor's lovely, isn't it?
You've got, yeah, original parquet in a lot of rooms, yeah.
That's really pretty. Do you want me to take my shoes off?
No, you're okay.
Sure.
Try out tonight.
So this is from the front living room. Lovely floor. Fireplace. And view. That bit's not our garden, in actual fact. And then the actual front door, very wide hallway, and this is one of the rooms, parquet floor again, looking out to the garage. It's nice and cool in here. Nice size room, very square. And then next door is another room with a beautiful floor. A little bit smaller, but still a really nice double size. And that one looks out to our bit of garden and the little shed thing. And then bathroom, cupboardy. It's a little cupboardy. And boiler. And I think this one's just had a new boiler. And then very basic white suite, shower. And then another room, carpet this time. This one looks out onto our bit of garden. And then back into the front room.
That little wall at the edge of the garden was actually quite low and it backed onto a public footpath. So there would have been people walking past, as you're maybe sat in your garden. It makes it very, even though it looks idyllic in a way, there is another house obviously overlooking it. But once I realised that pathway was there, that kind of, put me off even more. I'm very much looking for somewhere that feels like my little piece of peace, if you like, my little sanctuary. And so privacy is a big aspect of that. This was priced pretty reasonably, actually. There were a few quirks about it. The garage didn't belong to the rental. It belonged to the owner. That was full of the owner's stuff, so we wouldn't have had access to the garage, even though there was another kind of storage shed. And I'm a little bit sort of weirded out by a bungalow and the layout. Obviously, the kitchen and the bathroom were fairly dated, the bathroom in particular. And another part of the land outside was also not for our use, so it was a little bit quirky in that sense. It was pretty, and it did have some positive things about it. But, as I said earlier, my mindset wasn't in the right place to feel open to it. Around the time that I made the booking to go and view the other house, the bungalow, I also managed to get a booking for this one, which looked like our dream house. And it really, really was gorgeous. And it was kind of out of our budget, so it was expensive, and it would have stretched us financially. But we were willing to make some sacrifices to kind of make it work. I would have needed to make one of the rooms a home studio and give up my out there studio. There's a lot of things to weigh up about giving up my out there studio, so that was really important, and it was something that James was quite worried about, that I would...
The original key.
I think I'm in love already. It's got so many fun characters. Stay at home all the time, hibernate, cocoon, and not get out much, which isn't, as we know, very good for our mental health. And it kind of got my thinking back to the lockdown days when I was stuck in and locked at home. I made a home studio and I worked in a really tiny little space actually. But those social benefits and mental health benefits would have been lost had we decided to take this house, which, you know, as you can see, is so pretty. There's so many lovely characteristics about this property and so much space that we could have played with and got really creative with as well. I mean, even the garage sort of felt like a little apartment. And I realise it's absolutely full of stuff, as is the house. But this lady, she was in the middle of moving out. She had a young family and she'd been really, really busy, she said, and she super apologised. And they obviously have a lot of stuff. So, and you can kind of, because it's such a pretty house, you can see through all the stuff if you like. But so I didn't mind that it was, you know, a little bit full of stuff.
Oh yeah, cute.
And the huge, really cute little window. Big back as well. And an airing cupboard. What? Yeah. And the little window. The other difficult thing about this place was as we were driving there, bearing in mind, and I've spoken on here about it, about my EMF sensitivity, so I'm electromagnetic sensitive, and I'm having some health problems with that. So one of the reasons we feel like moving sooner rather than later, if you like, is because there is a mobile phone mast near us. And ironically, this dream house that the universe has shown us, as we were just getting close to the house, James spotted a mobile phone mast. And actually, when we were there, and we were in the garden, there wasn't just one or two, there was actually 3 within location and also view from the back garden. And so at that point, I knew it wasn't going to be a possibility for us. And yeah, I was absolutely heartbroken, devastated, disappointed, all the feels, you know. So apart from the expense and the fact that I would have to give up my out there studio, which has, as I say, implications, and the masts, there was also another issue that we both felt quite apprehensive about. It was really rural, which we loved, but the lanes were so narrow around its vicinity. And so in actual fact, the nearest town and supermarket would have probably felt like about 20 minutes, we thought, to get there. But because the lanes were so narrow and it wasn't really designed to have the usual kind of passing places, if you like. So a lot of these narrow lanes, they have inbuilt passing places where vehicles can quite easily pass another. Sometimes you have to reverse or wait for someone else. But these lanes were teeny tiny tractor lanes. You know, the ones with grass growing in the middle, super narrow. You sort of had to wedge yourself into the bush, really, if someone else wanted to get past, or, you know, reverse and wait quite a while for someone else to get past you. It was quite stressful at some times, and there were tractors and bigger vehicles as well. I mean, I'm quite glad that we didn't go in James's van. We went in my little car. But it just felt so remote because of that. And you know, James works away most of the week, and so he commutes. And on the morning that he has to travel, he has to coordinate times with someone else that he travels with. And he would have to leave super, super early to navigate these narrow lanes. And it just felt like getting anywhere would just take extra long. And just going to the supermarket felt full of extra obstacles, and the ruralness of it just felt too remote. Yeah, so that was the other thing about it. Workshop anyway, isn't it, than a garage? That's all right.
They're in motion there. How cute is that?
This is the art centre.
Oh my God, we're going in there.
Hello. Look at all these lamps. Look at this. Like an old pay here booth. Please pay here. Lovely pottery. Red cups.
Okay, Beba, how are you feeling? Probably as bad as you look.
Do I look bad? I'm
You
gutted.
look very disappointed.
I'm like, I keep saying to everyone, have hope. I've lost it. I've lost the will, babe. Gutted.
Just
Again.
need to hang in there. The right one will come along. I know. Didn't feel like it when you're kind of in the moment, but trust.
Two. Have a studio here, please. Look at that tree. Or is it not? I was thinking, what is that? What a place. Look at the little lanterns. Oh my goodness. So pretty. Oh wow, it has. Roof garden.
As I've been going through this process, I always turn to my journals, my art journal and my writing. And I've actually written a poem, which I'll read to you now. It's called A Safe Space, and it's all about seeking and my quest to find a home and pondering on the reassurance of knowing that you always have that safe space within yourself. A safe space. A home inside myself I'll make, a place to rest, to dream, create. A soft, safe space where I can be authentically, unapologetically me. Within my soul I'll find a space where I can be my truest grace, and there I'll rest and there I'll thrive, in the home I've built deep inside. I did some journal pages to go with this as well, and it all came out rather blue, my blue cocoon girl, as I've called her. It's a bumpy journey, and I don't have any answers yet. And yes, it's uncertain, and I have to be honest, it's stressful. But if I look at it from a more distant perspective, I know I'm really abundant, and I have so much compared to so many. And I also know it's all going to be okay. I have to believe and trust and wait a little longer. And why can't we stay put, you may be wondering? Well, I have mentioned about the EMF sensitivity with the mobile phone mast near me, and James and I would love to have a garden, grow some veggies, have a garage for James, and that would also help me because I'm planning to do a van build. Did I mention that? My plans for my art bus? Well, perhaps I'll share that in another video. But I do have some plans for things that I'm fairly restricted in my current living situation, living in a flat without that. So I could get creative and get around those issues, but I've kind of been there and done that before. And also I'm not in any rush for that as well, so I'm happy to wait. And when the time is right and my circumstances are right, it'll all happen with great ease. My dream would be to find a little wooden cabin or a cottage, or even something a little bit ramshackle that we had to do up. I'd be open to that, and I know James would be as well. Somewhere that's not too remote, but that's in nature, maybe in the woods, maybe near the coast. A doer-upper, something that needs a little bit of work. And we are keeping a lookout for that, don't get me wrong. But it's really, really rare in the UK. You might think, oh, well, maybe we could buy a little piece of land and build something. But that's really complicated in this country as well, because most of the land is owned by the Crown, the Royal Corporation, if you like. You can buy little pockets of land, farmland or woodland, but then you have to try to get planning permission to actually build something that you can live in, that you can reside in. And a lot of that land isn't for residential purposes, so you can't even apply for planning permission. It's very complicated. And in actual fact it shouldn't be. We're born onto a planet where there isn't anywhere for us to sort of naturally reside on without these debts and battles and obstacles. That just seems really bonkers to me. And maybe I'm naive in my thinking, I don't know. But to me, that just seems totally backwards and bonkers. And feel free to let me know your own thoughts, and if you've got any ideas for me, I'd love to hear. Or indeed, if you're struggling with a similar situation, you can let me know down there in the comments. We can hold each other's hand through the process, can't we? Because one thing's for sure, isn't it? It's very reassuring to know that we're not alone. And we're definitely not. We definitely do need to find a home, yes, but finding one this way is really not working for me. And it isn't just, these past few weeks. This has been going on for quite a substantial amount of time. And so it is absolutely exhausting. We could hold off, wait it out, and the markets, of course, may change and things may have reached their peak. And it seems at the moment, and maybe I'm putting some obstacles in my own way, I don't know, but it seems at the moment that finding a place to buy and buying a place is hard, and then renting is even harder. And I may be smiling right now, but I'm just trying to, give a positive outlook. It's kind of the story of living at the moment, isn't it? Whether it's about housing or something else, until the certainties happen, and some roads do close, don't they? Otherwise, it's a winding path with forks or multiple forks in the road, and options and decisions. And some of those forks in the road and the decisions we make mean that further down the road, there's no way to backtrack and turn the other way. Decisions can be very complicated, can't they? And the whole process of decision making. I don't need to tell you that. But we are resilient beings, and so onwards we go. Trust the timing, never give up, never surrender, and believe it will turn out even better than expected. I'm telling myself that right now. And you're possibly trying to tell me that through the screen right now. Yes.
What are we doing?
We are going to pack and post orders.
I know I'm not alone for sure, experiencing challenges and bumps in life. And my thoughts reach out to you, whatever you might be going through right now. Whether it's good times that you're celebrating or more uncertain, worrying times, whether about housing, money issues, health, or indeed any other thing that life inevitably can throw at us. The housing situation for so many right now is very, very tricky. And as I mentioned, I know I'm one of the lucky ones. I do have somewhere to live. And for that, I'm extra grateful. And in the meantime, life goes on, doesn't it? And work and jobs need to be done too. But do take care out there, beauties, and remember to shine your lights as bright as you can, self-care to the max, in between, and get some nature when you can too. I love you all to bits, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye for now.